All right, we are back with the Teflon Tales. This is the second ever panel. All three past guests. I have Hema Lakkaraju, I have Robbie Samuels, I have James Bohr. A special thank you for James because it is technically 1:29 a.m. GMT from where James is. So thanks for staying awake or not falling asleep.
Not yet.
So again, thanks for joining. And you guys have been here before, so you know what the Teflon Tales is about. For viewers joining in, I just want to explain this. So the whole theory behind the Teflon Tales is how do you live your life like Teflon? Let me explain. Right, Teflon is you get hot very quickly, you cool down very quickly, you remain balanced, non-sticky, and flexible. So those are five attributes. Today's topic is really about how the COVID years, and I'm talking about 2020 and 2021, have impacted the ability to live a Teflon life, right? It's the first question, right? And we can go with Hema, Ravi, and James in that order. What dramatic new pivots and explorations did you have to do when COVID hit last year?
So who do you want to jump off with? I'm sorry.
Hema, why don't you go first?
Sure.
Hema, you're muted. I think you need to unmute yourself. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think for anyone last year, there were two big challenges. One is at a professional level and one is at a personal level. So from a personal level, being a mother, being a daughter-in-law, being a daughter, I was very restricted in the way I can communicate or meet the people because we have been always trained to have that human emotion as a person to person with a human conversation happening face to face. And from a mother point of view, of course, I have two small kids who are running around doing homeschooling and stuff. So I have been running around and around all in the house, providing snacks for them and doing the work and having meetings and so on. So there is a lot of challenges from a personal level, and there is no social life. And as a human being, we are tuned to look for the support systems and look for the teams who or friends who encourage us, that we can feel like we are part of that cult. And that has been challenging last year. So we have to find a new way to adapt, be agile, and whether it can be a video call or whether it can be just a phone call away once in a week with your close friend. It's again pushing your out of your comfort zone on what we thought it's normal. It's no longer normal. From a professional life, I think I have been very much habituated meeting people in person, working my team in person as a startup, and this also have challenged me a lot because I have to think on how to be productive as a solopreneur, as a founder, as a CEO of a startup, but also bring the team together. And this brings in of more of a supporting conversations over phone, more of being inclusive, not from a professional point of view, but also understanding the team, having personal conversations, what they're going through, and so on. So I think it's about situation, but it also is about how we react to the situation, and are we being adaptable, are we being agile, are we finding ways, and moreover, are we going out of the comfort zone to make a better environment for everybody?
Awesome. Ravi, all yours.
So can you repeat the question?
So what changes did you have to dramatically make when 2020 hit? Pivots, explorations.
Wow. I mean, such an understatement, right? So prior to the pandemic, I was focused on speaking for more than a decade. I was speaking professionally at conferences and summits, etc. And I had really worked hard for more than a decade to be recognized as an expert, as a networking expert. I wrote a book, did a TEDx talk, host a podcast, and I had a plan to do a big thing in March. It was a big launch around that, and it just came to a stop. So for me, I was trying to figure out how to show up and add value. And I just want to say, side note, I have a 3 and 5-year-old, so I hear you on, like, I think one of the hardest things for the first 7 months, we had no childcare support. It was just me and my wife, both working full time. Fortunately, we both already were working remote, so that wasn't a huge disruptor. But having to figure in, what does life look like when we're taking on childcare as a big part of our day when we hadn't been prior to that. Um, the thing is, I couldn't go around teaching people what I had been doing. Eye contact, business cards, shaking hands, body language was not needed. Sort of like, so this week, a year ago this week, I saw this coming. March 11th, I accepted that it was happening. And March 12th, I wrote 9 Ways to Network in a Pandemic. And
Wow.
Awesome.
I basically, I want to credit my peer mastermind, because from March 9th through like the morning of March 12th, I know what it feels like to feel stuck, and that I was stuck. I know looking back on the calendar, it wasn't very much time, but I was like, how, like, what's my relevancy? How do I add value? And I met with folks on the 11th in the afternoon, and they were like, stop it. You don't think of networking as just a thing you do at conferences or just in person, and you're great online and you know a lot about online events. You network on, just go. And so I woke up in the morning on Thursday and wrote 9 Ways to Network in a Pandemic. And I thought Thursday night, it received pretty good response. And I thought I should do one of these. And so I hosted on Friday my first virtual happy hour. And I asked them, I've been a private group, and I asked some folks Thursday night if he'd come, and they said yes. And so the next day I told more people about it, and 20 people came. And I think in that moment, I just was like, so happy to see. I mean, I think we were all just happy to see people we weren't in charge of feeding. Like, it was just such a relief to be around adults. And I have hosted that now.
Hope your kids aren't listening.
It's just true. And I cook for my wife too, I guess. I don't want everybody was asking me for food. So I have hosted that weekly event every single week, every Friday since then. And now this Friday will be the 1 year that we're marking, which is a weird thing. Like, do you celebrate the fact? I mean, it's like, it is a cool thing that we did, and it created an amazing community. And from that, I launched a brand new business with all kinds of new revenue streams. And 8 months later, I had a 6-figure business. And, it was a very busy year, because it wasn't the only, I was building that while still doing other things, including parenting, and coaching and doing business strategy. And so I had to sort of I had to accept it quickly, I think, was the biggest thing. And my background's in events, and I know a lot of folks like in the events world were kind of still waiting for it to, like we were like, oh, it's going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a month and a half. And I was like, that doesn't seem right at all. Like, I had been listening to Rachel Maddow for like the month and a half prior. So I think that actually helped me have a little heads up that this was a real thing. But yeah, it was a major shift in how I did work, how I network. And I've met more people in the last year than the prior, like, 3 years combined. And it's not just that I met them, is that I've developed real relationships, I think, with people. And I have this amazing like lead generation tool, which is this weekly event. And it's changed everything for me. And there's some things that I won't let go of. This is like part of how I do business now, even if virtual is no longer required. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing story. So, James, all yours.
I cheated almost. Back in September 2019, it would have been. I left a stable job with an employer who are still one of my clients, so that's all good, and went independent. And I was at that point deliberately engineering the way that I worked and the way that I lived, so that I had flexibility and resilience in what I did and how I did it.
Wow.
Which was not foresighted at all. It was because I wanted to be able to go and work from a campsite or from a beach, and I could do that for a while, and then the pandemic happened, but it meant that I was in effectively a very good place when that came along. So I didn't have to make any huge changes except removing the travel element of things.
So it's an interesting point, right? I mean, all three of you have very, very different experiences, and this is kind of what the pandemic has taught us, right? I mean, people say, "Hey, we're in the same boat." We're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm, but in different boats, right? Which is a better analogy, for at least in my mind. So one of the things, and again, leads to the second question, which is you're really good at something, right? And then something that unforeseen that you have no control over happens. I think the hardest thing, and I speak for myself too, is, and James, I'll start with you because you mentioned something about leaving a stable job, is the ability to walk away. And going back to the Teflon analogy, right? You're really good at something, you're hot. You have to cool down in order to start another stuff. So what gave you the courage? What gave you that inner critic, people from outside, self-imposter, whatever you want to call it, right? To be able to, you mentioned resiliency, you mentioned courage to be able to take that first step, because I think that's super, super important right now, at least as we've seen people who've been able to at least navigate better than others.
Honestly, it just got to the point where staying in the same job where I was doing the same thing day in, day out wasn't an option. It wasn't courage. It was that I couldn't keep doing that, not 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So yeah, there wasn't courage. It was simply saving my own peace of mind and my own health to step away and go independent and start doing all of these different streams and being able to try things without having to clear it through a compliance department or an HR department, just being able to experiment with ideas, go and talk without going through media. I'm my own media and legal department now, so if I say anything that gets me sued, at least it's only my fault and no one's going to tell me not to.
Yeah.
Robbie, your experiments.
Well, so in December of 2019, I got hired by, or maybe like November, October, something late 2019. I got hired by a company to start doing business strategy coaching for their entrepreneurs, and it was a great opportunity. It wasn't a big money opportunity, but it was a great opportunity for training, for growth. I knew that it was a great community. I loved the people they attracted. I liked the people on their team, and speaking business, it's always up and down. So I was like, well, this would be good. And I love coaching. And the part that you don't like about coaching is like finding clients. So I'm like, this is brilliant. Like I'll get clients from them. Well, that turned out to be a more than part-time role. It was 12 students a week that I was meeting with, plus all the like admin hours of meetings, like just because you're part of a team, right? So there was just a lot more hours than I had thought. And then in May, in April, they were like, hey, we have this other opportunity. And now again, April, I still don't know that I'm going to have a business. Like I don't have a business, right? And they say, well, we have this other program where we're going to be teaching people how to run online course. Do you want to be one of the coaches who oversees a cohort? So I oversaw a cohort of 110 students for 4 months. And those 4 months overlapped with my business basically just kind of going up, up, up. And so I had to let go of that at the end of December last year. Like it was a really hard decision. And it's one that I actually came to when I had a week in November where I said, I'm going to take off. And really all I ended up doing was not do anything for that company. But I still was working every day on my business. I just got a couple of mornings where I got to start late, go to the beach with my family, go for walks. I had a couple of nights I didn't work. It was like the most reasonable schedule. It was still a busy schedule, but it was a very reasonable schedule compared to what I'd been experiencing the rest of 2020. And that stepping away from the like constant movement is what made me realize it was completely unsustainable and not going to change. Like I kept thinking, oh, it's going to change, but it never changed. And so making that decision, trusting this new business model would carry me into 2021, that it wasn't a fluke, that I was basically treating myself like a client. What would I tell someone else who was working on product market fit and lead generation and following my own best advice? And it was working. And I had to sort of let go of a sure thing
Yeah.
was a great experience, and then kind of instead step away from that while it was still, like you said, hot and awesome and quality. I mean, such a quality experience. But I just signed 2 new private coaching clients, one for 6 months and one for a year, that are equal about to my take home
Wow.
for 1 year of all the work I did. So I think that it was a good decision, but at the time that you're making these decisions, you don't know. You just don't know what's going to be possible. And yeah, I love your analogy about the Teflon.
So Hema, I know you have pivoted quite a bit, right? And you've had to walk away from a few things that I'm aware of. But talk from a viewership perspective and people giving people ideas about how did you go over that hurdle of walking away from not just a successful career that you had with a large company, but also even within your startup, the number of things you had to walk away from in order to chase something new.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing panel today because most of the stories that James Robbie have shared, it's pretty much similar to what I have been through. So in 2018, similar to what how James was saying, I was doing 9 to 5 job of working from home, of course, but doing similar thing day in, day out. And it's um, I have some ideas that I wanted to share, and I had the strong belief that I can do better in terms of contributing, not for one project, 2 projects, but for more people and more companies. And I think during that course, I started to initially write articles in LinkedIn, and I think that's how I met you, Ashwin.
Yeah.
You read one of the articles, and then I have been submitting this ideas and concepts that I was having to these conferences for speaking opportunities to see. It's an inner validation. What you think might be a good idea, it might be different what the world might think. And I was getting one after another higher acceptance rates, asking at conferences to come and speak on this idea of strategical compliance management for healthcare and life sciences. And at that point, I had to make a decision uh, to step out of my comfort zone and try something new. But it was tough because I was a mother, I was a wife living in Bay Area with a full-time job and mortgage to pay and bills. So yeah, it took us a few months to think, understand, assess, and then we said, okay, we are going to try this for 2 or 3 years. And we initially started as a consulting, then we had a awesome product idea and we started with designing one big enterprise product, and it didn't fly through because because it's really hard to get for a startup a bigger organization as a customer. Then it's again, as Ashwin have said, it's adaptability, looking for different options, thinking from a different perspective. And we said, okay, why are we trying to think about this role model of a startup, only one person that have been successful, right? So I have to think about different business strategies. And then I have been talking with the people, and I saw a large amount of startups struggling with the regulatory compliance because it's been so expensive and so silo expertise. One are only good at FDA, one are only good at cybersecurity, one are only good at privacy, but we can provide all under one platform. And we were very, very niche and on changing our mindset to looking only not just for bigger companies, but look for the people who really, really need your help and who are very desperate and who are looking for strategies, not an operational kind of tool. So we started to re-engineer ourselves mindset and started to design 2 new product softwares. And then right now we continue to support startups and it's an eco pledge that we took, pledge to help 50 health startups for free. And it's a continuous effort that we are doing. And what an amazing people I have met, fellow female founders in health and tech startups who are mompreneurs like me, who are working day and night, trying calls after calls to make the company survive and make a difference in the society. And if I wouldn't have taken that step and try something new, I wouldn't have been a board member, board advisor for 3 startups at now, including one big nonprofit organization of data collaboration, Canada-based nonprofit organization. I wouldn't have able to help 15 health startups in the period of 3 months. And if I didn't take that leap, I think it wouldn't have happened. So, yeah.
Wow. So the thing that amazes me is the common thread over here, right? Which is there's a giving aspect. There is pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. We're looking for indicators and acting on those indicators. Right? These are things that I think sometimes most people are struggling with, right? Just to be able to do that. So one more question, and then the final round, right? Which is, I know, Hema, you mentioned this, and I think this is super, super important. You mentioned about your fellow women in tech and startups who are burning the midnight oil. So again, going back to Teflon, right? Turning off the stuff and being able to cool down really, really quickly. I know, Robbie, you had mentioned this about taking the beach vacation. Is how do you maintain mental sanity when you are trying to do many things and you're turning on and off stuff, but to be able to kind of get yourself that space? So, Hema, what are some of your ways to do it?
Yeah, I personally think it's about the mindset, Ashwin. If you think it's a pain, and if you think a startup is all about the glory in front of the magazine cover and so on, and you really are going day one and day two or day 30, you're expecting you to be in front cover of a magazine and everybody applauding you, that's not reality. And we have to embrace the journey, and it's the pain, and the pain that helps you to grow. And once you understand the whole concept of it, it's good. Whether you are a mother who have 2 kids who are attending online school, and you have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning cooking food and parallelly having calls and being a board advisor and being an author of a book and speaker, which I'm doing right away, all those things now, and jump on a clubhouse calls even at a late evening. So it's, if you think it's a pain and you want to see the result without having that journey, and that is not the truth and real of life. So you have to embrace the pain, and it's like you're transforming yourself going through the pain, and you have to embrace that it's a journey, and you're making yourself better every day. And once you have that mindset saying that this process is going to make me better every day, it's all about embracing and enjoying that journey.
Great points, Robbie.
Well, I have to say that what happened for me was I went from speaking at conferences about how to network at conferences. When apps stopped being a thing, I then took my message of events are about content and connection, and I brought them to the virtual space because I don't think virtual events get a pass once they become synonymous with events. And that all morphed into me becoming a virtual event design consultant and an executive Zoom producer. So you can only imagine what my 2020 was like as I was doing a mix of teaching people how to use Zoom better. I created a certification program so people can become certified virtual event professionals.
Oh.
We have been running my No More Bad Zoom virtual happy hour for a year.
Yes.
And then I started getting hired by national and statewide advocacy organizations to help them strategically bring their events online with less stress and greater participant engagement. And I already told you what I was doing with the coaching, 12 people a week. And then I was overseeing 110. So I worked every day that ended in Y except for 2 after April. And one was Father's Day. And the other was Thanksgiving. And I don't think Thanksgiving counts because it doesn't end in Y. So I think the other things that I did that gave me sanity. My wife and I take turns getting up with the kids. So I know that there are going to be a handful of mornings a week that I don't have to set my alarm. I can wake up when I want. I can go for a run or not. I didn't run as much as I wanted to in 2020, but I kept up my 5K a month minimum. I kept up my miles. I ran every week. And we also Friday nights I was exhausted by the end of the week, and I'm a huge extrovert, so I don't usually ask for time off, like alone time. But I was like, Friday night, I just want to lay in bed, and so I would get to that point, and I would just watch bad TV. And Saturday nights, basically when the pandemic hit, my wife and I instituted a date night, which we never did consistently before because we always had plans.
Yeah.
But now every single Saturday for a year, we have watched a movie and worked on a puzzle. And then now once a month we do board games. And now every 2 weeks we go out for lunch together because we have a sitter. So why don't we go to lunch in the middle of the week? Like, so just like this year looks a lot more balanced. But those mornings off, the focus on my own fitness, and trying really hard to like maintain that and having some goals. 200 days ago today, I started doing 30 days of 100 squats a day, and I'm still doing them. So,
Wow.
you know, just you take your victory lap where you can. Like some days, that was my movement for the day. 50 in the morning while I brushed my teeth, and 50 at night when I brushed my teeth. And you know, other than that, if I walked 3,000 steps, that was a lot because I wasn't going anywhere. So you just kind of, I think for me, it was really about being kind to myself. And when my life changed in January, just accept that it was what it was. It is no longer has to be that way. And instead of being up myself about, you know, what I did, it was survival. In January of 2021, I consumed 25 books because I
Wow.
listened to and watched no news. I didn't do any bad TV, no random Netflix, no random YouTube, no random Facebook. I focused on audiobooks and a couple of ebooks. And it was just me resetting my brain. And so now self-care is a really good mix. But you know, sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you just I don't want people to feel bad. I think that life has its moments, and you know, we all had to kind of ride that wave last year. And those of us that stepped into the fray early, it was an opportunity not to be missed. But it's not sustainable. It's a moment. It's not
Yeah.
for you just to live your life forever. And I did it for 9 months, and then I was really happy to step off that carousel because it was becoming a lot, and I don't even think I had a sense of how much it was when I was in it. So yeah.
Yeah, great. James, and this is a loaded one for you about how you keep balances, given it's 1:55 a.m. for you.
It's not a loaded one. I keep on saying that I don't really do work-life balance, and that's not that work takes over my life. It's that it's more of a work-life blend. You know, there's not a difference between necessarily when I'm working and when I'm relaxing, depending on which part of work I'm doing. I mean, I'm now doing a virtual events company which bases its platform on Gather, so map design. You know, I take half an hour out to build a map and do a bit of work there, and that's really relaxing. Technically it's work, but because I'm not making that distinction, it's a relaxing thing for me to do. Equally, I've got books I can read that are just, they're related to what I do, but I enjoy the books, and there's ones that aren't. I'm tutoring with a boot camp, and that is not only relaxing but incredibly inspiring. So it's not a case of, okay, I will set this strict balance that I have to follow, and I've got the luxury of not having to do that because I've not got children. I've got cats, so they're more demanding but easier to ignore.
That's typical British humor.
It means I can set my own schedule. If I feel like working for 10 minutes, I can. If I feel like putting my feet up for half an hour and playing a game or reading a book or going for a walk, I can. And it is just a continuous blend where it is moment to moment. I will get done what I need to get done. Aside from the stuff I need to get done, I will do what I want to do in that moment.
Great. Yeah, I know that's a great place to be, but again, it comes with hard work. So, final lightning round. So, 1 minute or less. We'll start with you, James. If there was one thing that you could have done differently in 2020, if anything? What would that be?
Got involved with Gather back in May when they launched rather than in September.
Okay. Robbie?
I think I would have found a way to stay in better touch with family. Even though we could be doing more phone calls and virtual connections, it still feels like elusive. Like the rhythm wasn't there, and I was so busy. So yeah, just like feeling like I want to make sure everyone in my world, friends, close friends, family, I want to do more of that this year than I did last year.
Got it. Finally, Hema, what would you have done differently?
I would have more Zoom parties, I guess.
Hey, every Friday, come hang out with me.
Hey, I was about to say,
Yeah.
hey, Robbie's there. No more bad Zoom parties. Hey, that's...
A mix of Zoom tips and networking with about 60, 70 entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Count me in.
Yeah, see, there's a connection right there. So
Brilliant.
So, all right. So thank you. I know we're a minute over the 30-minute boundary. So again, thank you for your time. Hey, James, you got to hit the bed, man. Robbie, thanks for staying up. I know it's East Coast time for you. And Hema, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thank you all. And it's really wonderful talking with you all.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.